Hey, welcome in. How's it going, everybody? It's Friday afternoon. Congratulations. You made it to Friday. And guess what? You made it to an Avalanche game day. Yes. It's a prospect game day, but an Avalanche game day nonetheless. And that's going to be what we're unpacking here today and getting you ready for everything to look for tonight as the Avs prospect take on the Utah Mammoth prospects. I'm Jesse Montano. Going to be joined by Meghan Angley in just a minute. Got Ashley behind the glass today. It's going to make it a great Friday show. As you guys know, want to start by reminding you about our great friends over at RefiJet. Did you know that you could refinance your auto loan? Well, with RefiJet, you could save around $150 every month, all with just a soft credit pull and zero hassle. Lower payments, flexible terms, and maybe even some cash back right in your pocket from your car's equity. RefiJet does the work. You get the savings. Start today at RefiJet.com, the faster, easier way to refinance. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. How's it going? I'm Jesse Montano. She is Meghan Angley on her wedding day.
You guys actually don't know this, but I'm already married. We're renewing our vows.
Okay. Gotcha.
I've been married for a while, actually, to the game.
So the best part of this is Meghan walked in wearing her all white attire, and we had a few folks standing here in the studio, and I said, Megan's getting married today. And someone fully believed me. They were like, oh my gosh,
Congratulations.
that's so amazing. Could you imagine the dedication level if you were getting married today and you're like, I got to go in. I got a 1:30 pod. I can't.
Well, and also, I'm getting married at the rookie tournament. Like during intermission on the ice, we'll get Zamboni'd to the center.
Each of you just one Zamboni from each side.
Aww.
That would actually be cute. Meghan, but like you said, you have been married to the game for a while, and the game is back.
The game is so bad.
The game is back. You and I were at Family Sports yesterday, and gosh, let's just start here. It's so nice to be back around the ring. I stopped by a couple times in the last couple of weeks, but there's just something different of, when there's official team activities going on.
It's the people, it's the sport also, but like a day like yesterday where we're not really watching hockey even, but we get to be back around the people that make the sport really great. So we're around some of the front office people, some of the coaching staff that we don't always get to see, like Brian Wilsey, and we're getting to meet some of these young players, and it's such a fun time too because they're on the cusp and precipice is a new word, you guys.
Works. Yeah.
Cusp and precipice of their pro careers and wanting to, forge a path to the NHL one day. And so there's a lot of excitement and opportunity, and you can see it all over their faces.
Did you like school? Did you like going to school?
It's a complicated question. Yeah. I loved school, but I was bullied.
Okay.
Which is not surprising to anyone.
Stop. But no, like where I was going with that is, and it's one of those things that no one ever tells you this about being an adult, but you get to a point, you graduate high school and you kind of lose that, first day of school, get to see all my friends and all my classes and teachers and all that stuff. And that to me, this working in sports and getting the first day back at training camp after the off season, that is the closest thing in adult life that you will get to first day back at school, getting your syllabus, going to all your classes, seeing all your friends again, getting back in your friend. Like we're in the media room yesterday, and as people, media members are walking in, it's like, hey, how was your summer? It's so good to see you. Going to the locker room, Chris McFarland walks in, hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. And it's just, it's got that fun energy that you used to get in elementary, middle school, high school.
Oh, absolutely. I still live for the back to school feeling, and I need to get out of it because it's kind of an expensive feeling. I want to get a new hairdo.
Oh, totally.
I want to get a new wardrobe. There's not a lot of reason for it other than new year, new me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't afford new year, new me.
And I actually, you've seen I have a white backpack, and it's It's barely white still. I got it 2 seasons ago at the start of the year. And pretty much everyone was like, white backpack, are you dumb? That's going to be dirty as hell in 10 minutes. And actually Paul, videographer for the Avs, came up to me last year. He's like, that backpack's held up pretty well. And I spun around. He goes, oh, no, it hasn't.
Uh-oh.
And so I told everyone right at the end of last year, I was like, all right, I'm going to get a new backpack for the start of next season. So, hey, it's not up to me sometimes, sometimes just the people demand you get a new bag.
No, it's true.
But I'm with you. It's part of that back to school energy where it's like, well, you got to get a new backpack.
Yeah.
How else are you going to flex on all the other kids?
Gotta get some new pencils. Get some folders with Lisa Frank designs on them.
Yep. Maybe even like a pencil bag that you won't really use, but it's part of the gear. So you got to get it. We are back in school. We are, class is back in session here. Megan, we talked yesterday on the show about kind of the initial impressions. Very different setup this year for rookie camp for the Avs. As opposed to what we've seen in years past, where it's normally 2 or 3 days, 4 days, even sometimes on the ice for these kids, maybe with an off ice workout day there mixed in, followed by traveling to go to this rookie tournament where you'll usually play 3 games. They've even played 4 1 year. Very different setup. We had 1 on ice session yesterday. It was about an hour long. And then we are jumping right into the games tonight with the Avs playing against the Mammoth. So I guess for anybody that didn't tune in yesterday, just kind of what were your initial thoughts? We did speak with Brian Wilsey. We did speak with Gavin Brinley yesterday. You're just big takeaways from a day that's hard to take away a lot, 1 hour running through drills, but just what did you see yesterday?
Well, I learned a little bit about myself because I usually take away a lot from that first day. And I think it could be a little bit of 2 things. The prospect pool is different. It's just a bit different. It's a bit depthier, but it's still intriguing. You have some players with decent amount of pro experience under their belt, and Prashepov and Bradley. And you've got some newer or younger guys like Gavin Brinley, who you mentioned is still a very young, intriguing prospect. And so
old.
I found I usually can glean the lineup a little bit more based on that setting. And I saw them trying out different things, different players with different guys for drills that I'm not really sure what kind of the bottom 9 is going to look like. Like I kind of have an idea for that top line. And then similarly on the back end, a lot of different pairings I saw that were being tested in these drills. And so all that to say, I think even there, just really seeing what these players have. It's not a set in stone like Cal Ritchie, the belle of the ball, right? Sam Belinsky going back 2 tournaments. Yep. And so I think that's exciting, and it allowed me to see these young players from a different perspective, not putting so much expectation and kind of letting them just show me, and also walking away from that too, knowing I didn't glean very much from that, and it's okay. I think seeing what they have in a game setting is most valuable overall. Well,
and you and I, again, this is something we talked about on yesterday's show as well, but Megan, like you can tell there's been a concerted effort and a intentional change of direction with which the Avs are approaching this prospect pipeline. And it's, half due, well, maybe even more than half due to necessity of where this organization is at with the main NHL roster, how competitive they are, where they're at in terms of assets and draft picks and trade pieces and, all that stuff. And then not to mention what would maybe arguably be your 2 most exciting prospects are currently playing out pro seasons over in Russia. So it's a great call out of just, it's a different looking group than maybe what it's ever been. Even like you said, last year, you had Cal Ritchie there.
And Ivan, who I was high on going into the tournament, but he really popped last year. Yeah. So I think too, what's good about this is there's players like Max Curran, who we'll talk about, that I think haven't necessarily popped for me yet, but everything that I'm seeing that he's doing, in junior hockey right now is very encouraging. And so I just want to see the growth too. So that's what I love about some of the continuity too, or a player like Sage Weinstein.
It's whatever you want it to be, Megan.
And so now I'm never going to get it right.
Who said Weinstein?
Wilsey.
Yeah. I mean, not that last names are determined based on how they sound. Weinstein sounds right. Weinstein sounds like, what are you, Dr. Seuss?
Okay, but I think that is how it's pronounced because I think that's what he has said.
Sage,
So,
who are you, Dr. Seuss? Come on.
so that's why I'm just going to refer to him by his first name, Sage. Wasn't able to play last tournament because of an injury. And so I think this is another, but has still a good, when he does return to health, another good junior season. So I'm excited to see then kind of not so different from the room that Sean Barons is in, that kind of hunger then, like, all right, I wasn't able to play, in Sean Barons' case, he wasn't able to play
at all
this last year, but he had an intriguing tournament and then an intriguing camp. So anyways, lots of storylines, still very excited to dig a little bit more into this group, especially that D-core. I'm really excited about it.
And so what are you excited about with it? Because I know there's folks out there who are going to hear you say that and go, well, Megan, there's not a lot of exciting NHL hopefuls on there. And while you can I maybe disagree to an extent, what is it that has you excited about this group? Because like we said, this prospect pipeline is in a different spot than it has been, in years past. And I think it's maybe marching forward with a little bit of a different goal than what it has in the past. And it's something that you and I talked about yesterday of, I feel like they're trying to get guys ready to play in the NHL in depth roles while also maintaining real competitiveness for themselves at the AHL level. Like we saw last year, that was a team that I think you and I both felt had the ability to go deep and contend for a Calder Cup championship.
Yeah, I think it's the story of Ivan. This player, undrafted, earns a rookie camp invite, impresses, earns an AHL contract, impresses even more, turns that into an NHL contract. Now he's a bona fide prospect that got a decent amount of games last year. And I think then looking at this tournament, there's players like Connor Kelly, a 6'2" defenseman out of Providence College, gets in a couple games with the Eagles last year. He's only on an AHL contract right now, but so was Ivan once upon a time. So I'm looking at the tournament differently too, that these might not be blue chip prospects for the Avs, but that can change in a matter of a season, depending on the growth that they show. And because Kelly's 23, Hank Kemp acquired from that trade last year, 23 years old, they're young for defensemen, but they're not just so young that they're coming straight from the draft, like Prishepov, who also was going to be an overager. Like, there's an interesting future where these players could grow into these depth roles that we're talking about. So we're really future projecting here too. Like, I'm not penciling very many of these guys into an NHL lineup this season, but the hope is that that's what they're building towards, and they're going to be ready-made to fit into the Avs system one day. And like you mentioned earlier, I think the Avs are intentionally picking these players with that in mind. So it's not necessarily the one-dimensional things like we talked about yesterday or the high skill that's going to blow your minds in a rookie tournament. I don't know that these guys are going to blow your minds in a rookie tournament with offense, that just pops. They're not going to be the offensive juggernauts necessarily, but they might have just what they need to fit into an Avs lineup one day in a depth role.
Well, and so two things here. One, Megan, I made the argument on this show several times last season that maybe the Avs prospect pipeline is getting a tougher rap than it deserves. They played 50 guys last year. Not, all told, 50 players used for the Avs last year. You got to have some prospect depth to have that many players, 20-something players, 19-something players that can jump into an NHL lineup and at least contribute to some extent. Like you said, these aren't necessarily blue chip prospects, but these are prospects that are, kind of taking aim at a different goal here, if that makes sense a little bit. And then two, I always find it, it's just funny because, like I said, in years past, we usually spend a week watching these guys, right? Young kids, prospects, guys who were just drafted, whatever, going through all their work, and then the rookie tournament, and then you see the vets get on the ice, and there's usually this huge gap. I wonder if the gap, it's still going to be, big between minor league guys and NHL guys, but I wonder if this year we'll see a smaller gap between the guys playing in the rookie tournament and when main camp opens, if that makes sense. We're like, I'm almost wondering if this group that we're going to see here starting tonight, like you said, no one's going to pop off the ice, but they should look a little bit more polished, a little bit more mature, a little bit more like an AHL team like we've seen the LA Kings do in the past of this tournament, where they'll basically just bring their American League team and they kind of kick all the other teams around because there's a lot more, CHL and unsigned prospects and things like that. I wonder if that's a little bit more of the look we're going to see for the Avs prospects this weekend.
And I think what's interesting too is evaluating their defensive prowess, because they're going to be containing some high-end prospects on the Utah Vegas side. And so again, I also don't want to undersell the possibility for offense from players like Nikita Pavlychev, who I think especially by the end of this season with the Eagles was showing some really intriguing vision below the goal line and setting up some plays that helped them to advance past the San Jose Barracuda series. I allude to it, but it was a really strong performance from him. And it took a combination of, puck skill and a little bit of physicality to win back pucks on behalf of Pavlychev that can absolutely shine through in this setting and result in goals. Christian Humphreys is a player that is a little bit of a showboat in a fun way that I expect some fun types of offense from him. So that can still exist in this tournament, but they'll, as a team, be tested defensively in how they contain some of these high-end prospects that they're playing opposite of. And so that's going to be, too, a necessity if they do have a future in an Avalanche lineup. You talk about Jared Bednar guys. That's going to be a huge part of their game that they absolutely must have. So I think that's going to be the other thing too, is just seeing the commitment level, willingness, and how naturally some of these reads get made defensively for a player like Alex Gagne. Because that's my concern with a player straight from college, is I think defensively, that could be the toughest part of the transition, especially since he's already a big guy. I think the physicality playing, against men won't be as challenging for him. And the pace really, I think, the issue with pace boils down to making good defensive reads. And so I think even Sean Behrens, who is so smart, had to get adjusted to this. And, Wilsey has talked about with Behrens, it's, with an undersized player, it's about different paths to defending because physicality might not be the way that you defend a play. That will be true, though, to a player like Alex Gagne. And so I just want to see how the mental, like the IQ side of the game holds up for some of these young players, because that can be the toughest thing in that transition from the level they're coming from to the pro level.
Yeah. And I've talked about it in years past, right? I really like this tournament as a nice, like, kind of intermediate step, between what you're talking about, getting up to that pro level pace and speed and all that. I was gonna hone in on Alex Gagne, but I want to wait and circle back to the end when we kind of get into more, who are you
specifics, because I want to go back to Gavin Brinley. I want to qualify something I said yesterday, and I want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to amend what I said about Jack Drury. I'll elaborate.
Okay, yeah, we'll circle back to that. But Megan, these are games that you aren't worried really about results. What the final score of this game is. These are straight evaluation games. Obviously, the players out there would like to win. Are you looking at anything in net? You got Isaac Posh will be in the tournament this year, who got in one game, I believe, with the Eagles last year, and then was kind of around. Anything on goaltending? Again, this is another one where I think you're kind of looking at athleticism, reaction. How do they handle not ideal situations? Because while this is like a game and it's more goalie friendly than running through drills, there's a lot of miscommunication out there. There's a lot of guys trying to get on the same page. Still not super goalie friendly. What are you looking for out of goaltending this weekend?
I think Isaac Posh is intriguing because the goaltending depth changed this last offseason in terms of really what we're talking about around the American League and the East Coast teams. Because, Shield moves on, Mandalese moves on, and it's kind of Trent Miner. And so Isaac Posh has this opportunity to really assume, I imagine, more of a tandem role, because I think they're going to run with Trent Miner as a true starter in Loveland. That's not in question in my eyes, but suddenly a ton of opportunity has opened up for Isaac Posh that wasn't there before. And so I'm excited because he had a really impressive college career 1 year to the next, big improvement. And so it's hard to evaluate goalies, past that at this next level. The adjustment is just the talent it's a step above what he's coming from, what he knew, and then the workload. And so I think that'll be shared with Trent Miner, obviously. But I'm just looking to see his confidence then, because this will be an even better taste to defending a lot of guys who already are at the pro level. And so I think St. Cloud, great program and a lot of good competition in D1 college hockey where he's coming from, but it just makes the talent then that he is defending, I guess, in net, that much better, just a notch above. So it'll really test him, his awareness and his confidence as a goaltender, and I'm excited to see that.
All right, let's do it. Let's shift over here and get into the specifics, because there's going to be a lot of names on these rosters tonight that folks don't know, but there's also a handful, maybe even a little bit more than that, that Avs fans I think should be familiar with and looking for here tonight. Do you want to start on D or up front?
Let's start up front.
Let's start up front. Let's get this one out of the way. Taylor McCarr, not available for this weekend. Yesterday's show, we played the Brian Wilsey interview. Can also go find that on the Gorilla Sports YouTube channel right now. About 20 minutes. Meghan Angley, I don't know why I just said your last name. You're sitting right here. Everyone knows who you are. Meghan sat down with Brian Wilsey yesterday after the on-ice session. And he didn't necessarily hard rule Taylor McCarr out for main camp, but said that, yeah, it's an injury that he's still working his way back from.
Yeah.
So again, fingers crossed that we'll get to see number 16 McCarr on the ice here in a week or so.
You know what I wondered too? Like, maybe Wilsey understood my question to mean by the start of camp, and since he's a few weeks out, whatever that translates to, I just hope there's a possibility maybe in a preseason game is where I'm going with it.
Well, it would be really fun to get him and Kale in a game, right?
Right.
That'd be really fun.
And I know we marked that Calgary game late in the season, so that's still a possibility.
Great pull on that, by the way. I had forgotten about that a little bit, but I forgot that we made that.
I haven't forgotten. Okay, good. Kate McRae's going to perform.
That's right. First name on the list, Meghan, that again, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on each guy. You know, we can kind of just move through as we see fit.
Yeah, more to say for some and less to say for others.
We got an NHL debut last year from Chase Bradley. This is a player that we've talked about a few times as being maybe in that call-up territory here as injuries crop up, and maybe even a far outside shot, real dark horse at getting that last spot out of camp, or are you seeing Chase Bradley as someone he's destined for leveling maybe another call-up game here or there later in the season?
Oh, I hate answering it in that way because then I assign a limitation to a player. But if I have to answer, he's pretty his line to being that guy for the last roster spot with the Avs out of camp. There are several guys ahead of him.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of guys have to climb over. Yeah,
and here's the reason why. Chase Bradley has grown on me as a player. I remember thinking back to a couple dev camp, rookie camps back. He didn't pop to me. I didn't think that the puck skill was there. I thought the skating was good, though, and he really won me over this last year watching what he does with the Eagles. He's very well-rounded. He's very committed, and kind of like the jack of all trades but master of none thing that you described yesterday. I just don't know that there's a thing that has stood out to me yet in his game that separates him from the rest of this forward group the way that other players might have this other thing in their toolkit. He's a player that the Eagles can utilize on both special teams. So I think that in terms of what he is at this level, we're still discovering it. He's still carving that out for himself. Like the way that he plays, it has a lot of polish, and that's what ultimately won me over this last year watching him. And so he was a really trusted player in the playoffs for the Eagles. So in some ways, that could be a comfort to a coach like Jared Bednar, just because you're going to get a pretty consistent performance out of Chase Bradley. But he's probably not going to be a difference maker from you. You're probably not going to end up surprised.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go here in numerical order. So Chase Bradley will be wearing number 38 tonight. For those of you watching, number 54, Gavin Brinley. So we spoke with him yesterday. Also go check that interview out. We've got it over on the Gorilla Sports X, about 10 minutes long, and it was played in yesterday's pod as well. He's going to be easy to spot out there. He's going to be the smallest guy on the ice.
Whoa.
But I mean, is he not?
Yeah. I feel like there are other things.
Well, I just mean like, smallest guy in the rink. But what I was about to say was probably also going to be one of the fastest guys on the rink. And I think he's going to play in a way that's going to make him noticeable. I talked a little bit yesterday that Meghan, for the first 20 minutes of on ice yesterday, I mentioned to you, I said, he's reminding me a little bit of TJ Tynan, really active, but not doing much. And I felt like that changed a lot as the practice went on. This is a guy I'm looking to be involved tonight.
Absolutely. And so I wanted to revisit the play driver conversation because I'm thinking in terms of what he has to do to be an NHL player and what that looks like. And so his calling card in the NHL probably isn't going to be play driver because it's probably going to be more of a special utility player. Like ideally he'll get some PK experience under his belt in the same way that we look at Logan O'Connor's production year by year. And it doesn't necessarily pop off the page, but he does these other things so well. And so I want to qualify that when I say I don't expect him to be a play driver, I don't mean that he should not drive play. And so I was thinking of offense as something that, there's a different vehicle for different types of play drivers, right? Like there's going to be a play driver who's more like a Maserati, and there's going to be a play driver who's more like a Toyota RAV4. And Gavin Brinley, I want him to be a play driver in the sense that he's a Toyota RAV4. Because I even talked about Jack Drury, like he's not necessarily a play driver. And I want to amend that because it's not that he doesn't ever drive play. He's opportunistic. And I think about the way in which he set up the Charlie Coyle goal in the Dallas series and how that is still a level of offense in Jack Drury that I can expect and want and look for out of Gavin Brinley, especially keying in on what he did in college offensively, setting up and working alongside really high skill players. And so there is an offensive instinct in his game that I fear I undersold yesterday that I want to, especially now talking about what we're looking for in this tournament, I do want to see a little bit more of that offensive game pop here because he did struggle to get it to translate from the NCAA level to the pro level. And so that's the room that we're in, is wanting to see if he can sort of lean into that a little bit more. And so maybe it doesn't pop off the page in the same way that Nikita Pavlychev has been able to find some offense so quickly into his pro career, but it should still be a part of his game. And so the other thing I wanted to qualify is offensively, I really want to see him driving possession, because when I think about what an ideal fourth line does for the Colorado Avalanche is they're extending possession by staying above pucks, winning battles, and that still serves a purpose even if it doesn't result in a goal. And so when I think about what I want to see Gavin Brinley do now and ultimately, in an Avalanche role one day, that's what I'm thinking of. It's very much what an Arturi Lehkonen and a Logan O'Connor does very well, just to extend the possession. And so that tires out teams and makes for better ice for the line coming on after. And so that's where I see Gavin Brinley.
Well, and so I apologize. I'm going to go back to the very beginning of what you were saying when you were talking about the Maserati versus the Toyota RAV4. One of the names I was going to draw the parallel to there is I was actually going to say, like, I think that's a great way to describe a guy like Logan O'Connor. He's reliable.
Yes.
He's going to get you there.
That's why I picked RAV4s, you guys.
And he's going to go forever as long as you take care of him.
Yes. I just want to acknowledge too, I picked RAV4 because they're very dependable vehicles.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, and
they hold up very well.
And that's what I was going to say. Like that makes a lot of, I think that's a great parallel. And then what you were just saying there at the end, I'm amending my answer a little bit, and I'm applying it to everyone that we're going to see here this weekend, because again, like what we said off the very top, you're really talking about, okay, can these guys at some point be trusted to be a call up and be a bottom six guy and get in and do those kind of, blue collar, put in those blue collar type shifts. And so, what you were calling out there at the very end, like how can Gavin Brinley, and again, everybody, get involved on the forecheck? How can he make life difficult for teams trying to break the puck out?
As an undersized player.
Right. How can he forecheck and then get back in the play and be disruptive, to a guy hitting the zone late, coming through the neutral zone? Can he get a stick in lanes? And again, it doesn't have to, you don't have to go out there and be Val Nichushkin, but can he start to show those habits, like you said, Arturi Lehkonen and Logan O'Connor? Because and Gavin Brinley in particular, maybe more than anyone else that we'll see this weekend, I think has a real shot at finding himself in the bottom 6 of this roster early in the season. And those are the habits that he's going to have to display for Jared Bednar to feel comfortable running him in that lineup.
Yeah, I think, no player can be a black hole of offense. And so I think we can underestimate at times too, like the skill difference from one level to the next. And so he did play with really high caliber players at Michigan. I want to see that offensive instinct at this level. It just might not be the calling card in his game, but he still needs to be able to keep up with it. And like a Jack Drury, be opportunistic and seize moments when there is opportunity. Like I think back to Jack Drury's arrival here, setting up Netches for some rush chances. And so I think Gavin Brinley has the instinct to be able to do that. And then like an Arturi Lehkonen, who I think is a great call out the more I think about it, because Lehkonen isn't the biggest player, but he can still be disruptive. And he can still win back pucks. And he also utilizes his vision to create opportunities for his teammates and find seams and drive to the net and just be a problem and getting in a goaltender's eyes, because as a smaller player, it's a dangerous area to go, but you have to be fearless.
Well, and again, we talked about this yesterday, but what you just said right there, like that's something else I'm going to be looking for. I know you're probably sick of me calling out that Gavin Brinley's undersized, but like we talked about it yesterday on the show, not to take a side swipe at a guy like Jean-Luc Foudy, excellent skater, great skill, would not get to the middle of the ice, turned into too much of a perimeter player. Just that can sometimes be the worry with undersized guys who are good skaters, who are skilled, who have kind of been able to lean on that skill for a lot of their career, is they kind of just start playing around the perimeter outside the dots.
Looking for the perfect opportunity.
Right. I'm going to burn this guy, and that's going to create this clean lane to the net. I'm going to get the perfect shot up. And again, from what I saw in the hour that we got to see them on the ice, I don't think that that's Gavin Brinley's game. But as the intensity ramps up a bit here, you called out yesterday, like the offense didn't fully translate. He dealt with injury, so that definitely disrupts it. But the offense didn't fully translate to the pro game last year. I want to see him attacking the middle of the ice, and fearless is a great word. I want to see him not playing scared and staying along the wall. Get to the middle of the ice. Jared Bednar talks about it all the time. You put in the work and you get yourself in the right areas, and you are going to be shocked at how often you're going to find yourself in a position where your skill is going to shine through because you took the first 3 steps correctly. Let's move on here. Gavin Brinley will be wearing number 54 tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. Maros Jelica, I was actually initially going to skip over him, but I know this is a guy that you like.
Yeah, and it's because of a rookie tournament. 2 seasons back now. He has dealt with injury, and it's always seemed to come or lingered from either like the summer or into camp. And basically what I mean is this time of year has been tough for Jelica, like the last 2 years. So I really want to see a clean slate for him. He's in an actually very similar position as Barons, though he did get in some games with the Eagles last year. I just don't think he built enough consistency and momentum. And what I appreciate about the Eagles' position with forward depth is they are in a place where they can have Taylor McCarr as a healthy scratch some nights, Cooper Gay is a healthy scratch some nights, and those are prospects I really like. But unfortunately, that just ramps up the competition for Jelica then to make a case for getting in regular games as a full-time pro with the Eagles. And so that's kind of the task at hand. Now, I don't want to undersell what I saw him tease in a rookie tournament 2 back with Ivan. I thought that they fed off of each other really well. And I think Jelica, his size stood out to me yesterday. He is bigger than I remembered him being. And so not maybe as much of a force on the ice the way that I think of Cooper Gay. And because he's dealt with some injury, what I really want to see is a player who isn't playing scared. Because the size can really be an advantage to him and can be what helps him to separate from some of these smaller forwards in this group, like Riley Connors and Gavin Brinley. And so it's going to be really important then for Jelica to kind of tap into what brought him success. Going back to the Vegas tournament with Ivan, I thought he really popped there, and it was because of his confidence.
Maros Jelica standing at 6'2". Want to see him throw that size around. He'll be in sweater number 55 tonight. I always love these race car numbers that we get at rookie tournament, all the unassigned numbers. Next is a guy you just mentioned, and Megan, we got to talk to him a few times in the end of last year, and I really liked him in addition to what he was doing on the ice. And then same thing yesterday. Liked his on-ice session, and then he was great to chat with after. And it's Cooper Gay, who got a small bit of runway with the Eagles at the end of last year, coming off his college season, and said that even that right there helped him feel more confident coming into this week, feeling like, hey, I know what I'm doing out here. I'm familiar with the pro game. He is a guy, Megan, that I want to see pop, in the sense of I want him to look a step ahead of some of these guys out here.
Yeah, and I know it seems maybe a bit unfair, but he is a little older and has, because he played out his college career, I think he just comes more pro ready than some of the other players. I alluded to that with Brian Wilsey, and then Wilsey talked about some of his conditioning, and I think that hearing Cooper Gay also talk about that being an emphasis this summer, how he takes care of himself, one, just ready-made Avalanche organization player. There's building blocks to getting Cooper Gay to, he would be more of a dark horse candidate in my eyes for an opening night forward roster spot. Now, there are some guys with a little more experience ahead of him, but what I like is how he seamlessly fit into the AHL level. And I've seen very limited of him at that level, but he was able to strip a high-end San Jose prospect of the puck and get a goal in his debut. And it was the result of hard work, and that never wavered. That wasn't isolated to just that shift. It was every shift that he was on the ice. He understood too that the role he played in college is different from the role he'll have crack at the AHL level. He's going to have limited minutes, limited opportunity, and he's up against better competition, and that didn't seem to throw him off at all. So he adapted to the pace very quickly, obviously not shy about using his physicality, and you can see in the interviews he's very confident in himself. And I think that's going to go a longer way than I've maybe given credit for in the past with some of these young players. The more confident they are, I think the better they're going to fit in at the pro level right away, because they have a good sense of identity. And I think Cooper Gay has a good sense of identity, what he is, what he's going to be successful at.
Well, and he's got, like Taylor McCarr, he's got something that you can't teach, and it's size. And that's something I know Brian Wilsey keyed in with you yesterday when talking about Cooper Gay. Like I said, for me, of anybody, him and Gavin Brinley, you can make the argument. I want to see just a little bit more pro readiness. I think I like that phrase you just used.
Yeah. And he had a productive, last college season, 19 goals, a career high for him. So maybe the offensive instinct isn't akin to what we saw with Cal Ritchie, for example. But I still think that there's opportunity for him to make some noise in that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Humphreys, do you want to talk about him?
I mean, just a little bit. Okay, yeah. He made, I think...
sorry. Cooper Gay will be in jersey number 58 tonight. I'm trying to make sure I get that in there.
58, Cooper
58.
Gay.
Cooper Gay.
Okay, sorry. Brain too, the sidetrack I went on is Taylor McCarr and Cooper Gay, at least in, again, the limited viewings, use their size differently. And so Cooper Gay, I think, immediately gets how to utilize that to his advantage, whereas I think Taylor McCarr shied away from it a little bit. Now, he didn't shy away from speed and the power of his shot. And I think some of it, too, was McCarr just trying to find his game at this level without stepping out of line, right? He was just eating unnecessary cross checks to the back because of the name on the back of his jersey, Taylor McCarr, that is. Whereas Cooper Gay, he didn't seem concerned about how he's going to be received by his opponents, whereas I got that sense from McCarr. So anyways, there actually is a difference in how they utilize their size, and I want to see that be the next level of growth for Taylor McCarr because he is also a very big player that can be more of a force. Christian Humphreys,
yes.
Sorry.
Cooper Gay, number 58.
Cooper Gay, number 58.
Christian Humphreys, yes.
Christian Humphreys, 63. He left Michigan to go play with the Kitchener Rangers, and he had no production, in his starting games at Michigan outside of an assist. And so I think opportunity dwindled, and he made a quick decision. I shouldn't say quick, but he thought about it a lot to go to the Rangers and play major junior and get more reps, more regular games, and as a result, more opportunity, and it rewarded him. So it also gives him the opportunity to be in this tournament. We otherwise wouldn't have seen him just yet. So he's still very young in his development. I hate the word swagger, but it does fit this player. Yeah. And I like to see it in such a young guy. So, if you're going to play like that or show like that in development camp, then I want to see that in the tournament. And I want to see him put the puck in the back of the net. I'm pretty sure I saw him attempt the Michigan yesterday. So I'm like 1,000% sure I saw it.
Oh, Megan, that, you know how you get me excited about a rookie tournament? Go pull a Michigan.
And so he's exactly like, if I was a betting woman of like who on this roster might do that, it's Christian Humphreys.
I love it. Christian Humphreys will be in jersey number 63 tonight. Megan, maybe the prospect that, at least judging by my Twitter timeline, Avs fans are the most excited about is Nikita Pavlychev. 7th round pick for the Avs. I never know the right way to say this. 2 summers ago? Not this past summer, the summer before.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. 7th round pick. Earned himself an NHL contract by the time camp was all said and done. And then earned himself a handful of NHL games where, yeah, he looked like a young player, but I didn't think he looked wildly out of place. And especially when you're considering this is a guy that was a 7th round pick at the time, weeks ago. I think you were really excited. He went back down, dealt with some injuries throughout the season, but this, I think, is absolutely a guy that's on Avs fans' radar. What are you expecting from Prish this weekend?
Well, I'm excited to see him play down the middle. That's where we saw him going back a tournament, and I really like him. I thought he was a bit raw the first time I ever saw him, but not necessarily in a bad way. Like, the raw tools were there. I just didn't see him being that close to being NHL ready and plugging into a lineup. And what I like about that is, 1, I was wrong. And 2, the ways in which I was wrong. And I think that's actually a credit to Pavlychev more than anything, that when given a challenge, he embraces it. And so kind of being thrown into NHL games so soon as a late round pick was a bit unexpected, but he didn't miss a beat. And, he wasn't fully ready, obviously, to assume a full-time NHL role, but that built up his confidence, I think, in a very big way to go back to the Eagles and put the work in. And I kind of talked about this yesterday, but seeing the path that Ivan has taken, I think, is very encouraging for Pavlychev to also be able to see that and see the opportunity that can exist for him if he continues to work hard. And so I think that's, I could see, now that I think about it, like in the way we talk about how Val Nichushkin puts the work in the gym after games, I think that there's like a baby Val Nichushkin in the way that Nikita Pavlychev has really embraced doing everything that he can to give himself an advantage. And he's been very committed to, getting acclimated to North American hockey, having played in the Q before this, a really productive player there too. And so I think a little more easily for him, his offensive instinct has translated. And some of that has been because he's been given opportunity, because he earns trust very quickly, not just with Jared Bednar, but with the Eagles as well. So I think seeing what he did in that Barracuda series I keep alluding to was a key reason that they advanced.
He was the one that kind of made me tip over into that, what I was saying earlier of, I think this Avs prospect pipeline gets slept on a little bit in the sense that, like, you pointed out, there are not really any blue chip prospects there right now. But I think there's a lot of guys, and Pavlychev, like I said, was maybe the one that tipped me over to this wave, thinking that there's a lot of guys that can play in the NHL and be useful to the Colorado Avalanche. And Pavlychev is maybe at the top of that list for me right now.
I think it excites me that he's a center prospect too, because I think with Kyle Ritchie no longer in the system, that was a part of their depth that took a hit down the prospect pipeline. And so to have Ivan and Pavlychev young enough that there's time to build up that part of their game, but getting trust enough to be that, I think it excites me to have that as an option.
Well, and like, if we were putting together a prospect rankings, I don't necessarily know if I'd put Pavlychev at 1, I probably wouldn't, in fact, but I don't know. He's definitely a guy that's on my radar, at least in terms of you got to keep an eye on this kid. There could be a pop here that maybe the Avs, hit on one late. And, I'm not saying blue chip, top 6 type guy, but I think there's an outside shot here that Nikita Pavlychev could develop into a bottom 6 player that could be very useful for the Avs for multiple seasons. And I think he's someone definitely worth keeping an eye on.
He's highly engaged, which I know with other prospects, that's sometimes been the concern. They're too quiet, right? Jared Bednar wants loud players. I don't think Pavlychev came to the Avs an extremely loud player, but by the end of this last year, you could see he made conscious adjustments to be a little more loud on the ice, especially up with the Eagles. And so that is where you saw him on the forecheck, winning pucks and creating offensive opportunities, using sheer force and physicality. And he absolutely has to be doing that, but it's great that he took that step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Nikita Pavlychev will be wearing the same number you saw him wearing with the Avs last year, number 85. Megan, let's slide on over to the defense. I know there's a handful more players that we could get into on the forward side, but we'll do a hit after the game tonight. We'll key on any guys.
Yeah, who's this year's Ivan?
Right, exactly. And then we'll get a practice tomorrow morning, and we'll do a hit from there as well. And again, see if there's anybody else that we need to call into the spotlight. But those were the 4 or 5 guys that I saw up front that I said I think everyone needs to be keeping an eye on.
I feel bad we didn't even mention Max Curran, and I teased him in my tweet. Honestly, he's just a player that I think, when you talk about guys who appear more mature in their game, I think that was a player that I thought observationally last year could stand to mature more in his game.
Yep.
Not because he was being reckless or irresponsible. I just didn't think he had the same confidence level as some of the other players. And so this last year in the WHL, he, I think, was playing more like a second line wing role. And so I'm not sure where he stands in terms of being a center prospect quite the same way as before. Huge size, though. So another player that I think is trying to marry like good skating with being a big and physical player, because I think that he has offensive gifts that he's just a bit a ways off from it translating to the pro level, that I want to see that big step forward from him in this tournament. Max
Curran will be in number 90 tonight. Looks like we've got a member chat here. Ooh. Vaguely sober back in the chat. Good to see you. We have LOC, number of days left until Avalanche hockey. We are so back. We are under the 30-day mark here, Megan, until regular season Colorado Avalanche hockey.
I'm so excited. We were talking about this yesterday, how camp opens next week, you guys. Like, main camp is open.
Main camp is
It's real. It's happening. And that is a little crazy to me.
And we'll go from talking about, hey, here's guys that you should be aware of, to these are all guys that everybody knows. I know this isn't everyone's cup of tea. Like, these are players that we're realistically talking about a couple years out from now. But it's still fun. Well, and again, like I'm trying to key in on the guys that I see are some of those more immediate return guys here. And let's do that here on the back end. And we'll start with Sean Behrens. This was a player, Megan, for me last year. I mean, he came right down to the end. He was one of the last cuts out of main camp. And I really did. I said, man, we're going to get a Sean Behrens look this year and put this kid on your radar. Of course, there was a lot, we had talked about potentially being a trade chip, but I was, after his camp, I said, gosh, if they choose not to trade him, that you have a prospect on your hands there. Gets injured at Eagles camp, misses the entire year. I'm excited to see him tonight in a game situation. We talked to him yesterday, and you had a great interview with him, and I just interjected to ask, just like, how much have you been looking forward towards this weekend? Just big smile on his face. Oh my gosh, I've been counting down and all that stuff. I think Sean Behrens is a legit prospect for them. He's a legit asset for them, and it was a huge blow for the organization last year that he had to sit out the entire year.
Yeah, because he's only 22, like still very much a young player. So the need for Sean Behrens to be NHL ready right now doesn't make a ton of sense. But what I was so encouraged by out of last camp was how close to ready he looked. Yeah. He doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for being such a high IQ defenseman. And so he just makes smart reads, and he doesn't allow the fact that he's undersized, one, to let him get bullied around. I think that he's much stronger in his skates than he gets credit for, which is why his injury history is a bit unfortunate. It's different, it's varied, and I think it's a little bit fluky. And so I really want to turn the page on the injury chapter with Sean Behrens, because I think there's a really smart defensive defenseman in this player that also can quarterback a power play and was offensively gifted in a great program at DU. They leaned on him a lot, right? Power play and then just top pairing defenseman, eating up big minutes. But it was what he does defensively that I don't think gets enough credit, and why I think in that World Juniors tournament, he went from a third pair role to playing with Luke Hughes. And it's because Luke Hughes so offensively gifted, right? Like it balanced, it stabilized that pairing. And so I think in Sean Behrens, you have a player who also penalty killed in college. He can kill penalties. He's a left-handed defenseman, and he also moves the puck and gets up ice really, really well. The Avs might have a need for that, at least at the start of the year.
Well, and Megan, I was gonna say he's a lefty. Shout out to our guy Brennan Vogt, who's out at Family Sports this morning, and said that Sam Girard was out skating with the injured guys, and Megan, you and I kind of
Gossiped,
walked up to each other and whispered, Sam Girard doesn't have a stall in this locker room. Now we understand why.
Yeah, obviously don't have more information around what might be troubling him right now, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that he might not be available straight away, as when camp opens next week.
Avs locker room got remodeled. Cut the lights. We got a super chat. Behrens is also a lefty, and the Avs kind of need one, especially if Sam Girard isn't going to be ready to go.
It actually
seems like a perfect plug and play
because of what Sam Girard does.
Right.
And Sean Behrens, not quite the same skater. He's not going to do a tornado, but still a very strong skater. Like, you're not going to get spinny moves, but you're going to get a really smart defensive player that can potentially help on the kill. I don't know if they'll feel comfortable with that. Can potentially do that. His reads were so solid, in preseason last year, that I feel very confident that this could be a huge year for Sean Behrens.
Yeah. And again, like I said, new locker room for the Avs. So we were in there at the practice facility. So we were in there just kind of looking around, and Megan and I both picked up on there's no stall for Sam Girard. And again, there's a level of that's like, there's a handful of the camp guys that have stalls in there right now. So if Sammy G is hurt, that would make sense.
Jack Sean's there, Wyatt Ahmet's there. So there are options ahead of Sean. But don't spoil my fun.
and again, lefty makes sense. Sean Behrens will be in number 2 tonight on the back end for the Colorado Avalanche. Alex Gagne, we talked a little bit about him yesterday on the show, so we won't spend a ton of time here. 6'5". You and I both had the same first observation. He doesn't look quite like he's 6'5". Big guy out there, though, moves well. You read out, strong defensive metrics, really strong defensive metrics coming out of college. Listed at 6'5", left-handed defenseman. Skates and gets around the ice pretty well. Quarterback to power play at the NCAA level. Again, not huge for his production, but definitely different than what the Avs, very different defenseman from Sean Behrens.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the Avs not to get stuck in any one mold, and for a player like Gagne to have quarterback a power play at UNH, and also their most trusted defender in their own end. Because when I think about how Manson came to Colorado and the offensive side of his game open, I imagine there's an earlier version of Manson that also enjoyed playing into the offensive side of the game. There is opportunity for any defenseman in the Avs system to lean into that side of their game, right? They're such a transition team that they need players who can skate well enough to get up ice and feel a confidence to get involved in play as it makes sense. And so I like that he still has a little bit of that built into him, but there's this obvious emphasis on the defensive details. So I worry a little bit about that change from one level to the next. It is really hard. And a lot of it, I talk about reads, I talk about pace being a part of that. You're making those reads quicker. Your instinct just has to be very, very good. You have to make smart decisions. And I think that can be challenging for defensemen going one level to the next, especially college to pro. There are players who've done it very quickly, like Cale Makar. Even Malinsky, I think, took time in the American League, but not that much time. I just want to see where Alex Gagne is at. The way Wilsey talked about him too was similar, kind of just I want to see him be a sponge. I want to see him absorb this opportunity, and really see just the gradual growth incrementally then over the course of this weekend. And honestly, if he comes out the gate just in his own end strong, I will have no issue with that. That's just maybe where my expectation is set, though. That it could be a bit of a challenge for him, and I just want to see how he handles himself, and if he keeps his confidence high throughout.
He's a player that I have mentioned Megan as, and I only say this because of the willingness the Avs have had before to kind of thrust college free agents into the fire a bit, and kind of I think it's a little bit of an evaluation process for what you were just talking about of like, let's see what this guy does. I've named him as a potential outside shot to get a game or two at some point here, this season. And I'm with you. I want to see where he's at. Where is he starting from? Like, am I going to come out of tonight saying, yeah, I could see him working his way up to getting a call up for a game or two? Or am I going to walk out of there going, he needs a lot of work before, he's in that conversation. So I'm with you. And really, it's genuinely just kind of like I'm really anxious to see where this guy's at.
Same.
Alex Gagne will be on the back end, 6'5", wearing number 45. All right, Megan, 2 more players for you, then we're going to wrap it up and get out of here for today. Next one is Linus Funk. Again, another draft pick from this past season. What are you looking for out of Linus?
I'm excited to see him in game action because we got to see him at Dev Camp and I really liked some of what I saw. But I also was nervous, like he seemed a little fatigued and he might just have that kind of face. He might just, like the way that Sample Ranta played with his tongue out all the time, he just might look fatigued. I don't know. So I'm nervous of like,
oh God, I hope no one ever says that my face just looks fatigued.
I have a sleepy girl face.
Woo!
Didn't you say Tate McRae looks tired all the time?
She does.
There's nothing wrong with looking tired.
Her and Quinn Hughes.
Oh, they do both look so sleepy.
Just walking melatonin.
And see, all right, Quinn Hughes, an example of looking tired but still being very good at hockey.
Still being very awake.
Linus Funk. I just want to just see where like conditioning is at, honestly. Because I really liked some of the early returns in Dev Camp. In a game setting, though, that will really test just kind of the endurance and overall how he keeps up with it. But I'm really excited about him. One, the size is obviously exciting. The Avs do not have a need for a right-handed defenseman right now, but I'm sure in the future, just to have a player with that size, but decent puck skill. And I see his commitment in the drills that I'm not worried about engagement, and he's gonna now be in the CHL this next year. So I'm really excited to just have him start getting acclimated to North American ice. Really what I'm looking for is similar to what we described with Gagne, just with even lower expectation. Because I've seen some of these, like major junior kids come in and do well in these tournaments, like Sage. And I just kind of want to see, or Jeremy Hansel. Oh, I miss him so much. I want to see Linus Funk also not be afraid to engage physically.
This will be our first real good look at Linus Funk, and he'll be at number 59. I was going to talk about Sage. I know we talked about him earlier. Do you just want to put any kind of bow on that, or did you kind of say your piece on Sage Weinstein?
Well, I think what's interesting is what Wilsey said about how he's kind of right in the middle of the defensive defenseman. Because I just remember the tournament that I saw him in, which was the Hansel tournament, like back in Vegas 2 seasons back. He has great vision from the blue line, and so I kind of pegged him as an offensive defenseman, just having seen him in that setting. So one, I want more information, I guess, to see then how he handles himself in his own end and just the defensive reads, because he is kind of in that he's 6'1", but like I don't think he looks 6'1" on the ice, right? I want to see that not even cross my mind, basically. And since he is kind of among some of the guys here, like you have some guys with some pro experience, but then you have Linus Funk and Alex Gagne, and so I just kind of want to see him separate from some of those younger guys. Because this is now his second tournament he gets to play in, and he earned an NHL contract. Now he's officially a part of the Avs prospect pipeline. So I just kind of want to see what it is that they're seeing in his 200-foot game that they really like.
Sage will be out there buzzing around in number 80.
Love how we're just calling him Sage now.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I'm saving myself. One more player, Megan, that I just wanted, and actually we're not even going to discuss it. I'm going to have everyone hear from Brian Wilson himself on a player who won't be in this tournament, but I think is very much in this, prospect that you need to be very well aware of because he has an excellent shot at being on the Avs opening night roster, and that is Gier Bardakov. You talked to Brian Wilson about him yesterday.
And I know he's not in this tournament, but Bardakov is coming over from the KHL. What is your expectation in terms of NHL readiness?
Yeah, it remains to be seen, I think, until you get it's great that he was over here so early. I think that's always positive. Over here early, skating with the players, intermixing with the vets and getting used to the North American ice and the style and the plays and all of that. But, watching him like we did in the last couple of years, he skates so well. And that's, strong skating teams and quick transition and getting in on pucks. That's what we're known as. So that's a player that fits that mold. Who really knows? Hopefully he can step right in and be one of those impact players and use those assets that he has.
All right, so there you go. Gier Bardakov not going to be in the tournament this weekend, but definitely Megan, another guy for folks just to be keeping an eye on as we approach main camp and get into these preseason games.
There are two things I liked about that. One, the guys who've been in town and skating with the Avalanche pros now for the last couple of weeks. Prishepov among them, Gavin Brinley among them, Bardakov another. So there's guys also not represented in this tournament who are vying for roster spots in players like Poland and Steinberg. And so I think that's what makes it tough too, where we're like dark horse, blah, blah, blah. And there's these horses in front of them with a little bit more experience under their belts. That makes it tough, but exciting, right? That just should motivate every single one of these players in this tournament. And then the other part of it with Bardakov is it remains to be seen. It is such a question mark to see what a player who's a center in the KHL comes over and what does that look like at the NHL level. What I like though is Bardakov's game is, in playing kind of like a middle six, second line role coming from the KHL, he still does blue collar things. And so I actually think that I have a hope that he's more close to NHL ready than maybe we've seen other prospects coming over from the KHL. I think that he's another highly engaged player that will probably fit in pretty well. I just don't know. We talked about this with our projection for opening night lineups. I don't know if he'll be a center out the gate, but at least it's an option.
At least it's an option. Vaguely just dropped this in the chat, and I just did a little bit of searching, and our own Evan Rowell was on it a couple days ago. More than one team has reached out to Eric Johnson with a PTO offer. Doesn't sound like any decisions have been made yet. But there has been interest in EJ, who is highly respected around the league. Thank you for that shout out in the chat there, vaguely, so we could draw a little bit of attention to that. Megan, final thoughts for today, and we're getting out of here.
No, I think we'll be talking so much more after the game. I'm so sad we're not doing a post-game show, but I'll survive, I promise.
Yeah, we'll do a post-game hit for sure. So we'll definitely be bringing you guys some of our post-game thoughts. Hey, can we give some love to Ashley in the chat real quick? This is her first show that she cut today by herself. And look at that. Went off without a hitch. Absolutely love it.
Looks incredible. And the Tiffany blue couches are lovely.
It was a complete accident. I'm over here camouflaged in with our couch. It was a complete accident. Michael, what is going on? Always good to hear from you. Let's connect as we get a little bit closer to that game. I'd love to see you out in Utah, man. That'd be great to see you. That's going to do it. That is going to do it for today. We will be down at South Suburban Sports Complex for a game here. Still about 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours till the game gets going. But we're back. We're back, Megan.
We are so back. Do you have confirmation of where we can watch it? What?
I have not seen anything that is being streamed. Now, unfortunately, Megan, I know the last number of years, the Kings and the Ducks were the ones who were streaming it. Neither of those teams are participating this season. I know the Coyotes used to stream it as well. I'm going to reach out to a couple folks, see if there's a stream going on anywhere. Keep an eye on my Twitter. I'll put out any information that we do get. But I do worry a little bit, Megan, that this is not going to be broadcast anywhere. If that's the case, we'll do our best to try to get some clips and videos and stuff like that out there. We have someone in the chat, Graham, saying that it's going to be on hockey or on hockey. I don't know what on hockey is. I've never used that website, but that's what someone has in the chat here. So we'll see. I'm going to do some digging and I'll put out a tweet. I'm sure Megan will do the same if she hears anything. So just keep an eye on our.
I'll just go live on Instagram, you guys.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. We got Ashley behind the glass running the board today. Big shout out to her. That's going to do it. Thanks so much, guys. We'll be back at it with more content tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, and we'll be right back here with the pod next Monday. But you made it, folks. You made it through the off season. We'll see you tonight. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoy your weekend.